Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
With America's First News, and if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year, the world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel, the softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, Jeremy Scott here from Into the Paranormal, and I'm back live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Bouval, Lon Maladuquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better. And we mean it.
Do it live!
Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. Water has been detected on the atmosphere of a distant gassy planet 179 light-years away from us by a team of researchers at the Keck Observatory in Mauna Kea, Hawaii. It is 7 times the size of the biggest planet in our solar system. That would be Jupiter. The team picked apart a picture of the planet's light using a spectrometer on a telescope to show the chemicals in the planet's atmosphere. Dimitri Mawet, associate professor of astronomy at Caltech, said, "This type of technology is exactly what we want to use in the future to look for signs of life on an Earth-like planet."
Liquid water can exist at the surface of a rocky planet if there is a rocky planet. If the planet is closer to the star, water evaporates, not good for life, of course. If the planet is further out from the star, water freezes. So really not good.
It is one of 4 planets orbiting a star named HR 8799 in the Pegasus constellation. Remember Tabby's star? Well, how can we not? Astronomers have discovered a star that dims and brightens irregularly. It was found by Roberto Saito of the Federal University of Santa Catarina in Brazil and his colleagues using a telescope in Chile. He says, "We don't know what the object is." The team adds they'll need more observations with larger telescopes to figure out what's causing the flickering. Compared to Tabby's star in 2015, this one dims 4 times as much. Connect with the news at ParanormalRadio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
Contact, I am in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void. It is Wednesday night, December the 5th, on into the 6th. As the new and dark moon approaches, we are live on KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. Our website is lightingthevoid.com. Tonight, we're going to be speaking with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. It's been such a long time since we've spoken to him, and I can't wait to get this conversation going. You can follow us on social media. Just search pretty much everything on social media is Lighting the Void. The hashtag on Twitter is LTV Radio, and you can support the show by donating, grabbing a t-shirt, using the Amazon portal, or using the wish list. Thank you for all of you guys' support. I really appreciate it. You know, a big topic of discussion on the show is magic, and it's kind of a funny word. We kind of use this word to describe supernatural phenomena that doesn't really make sense, doesn't make scientific sense at least. Or you hear it come up when you think about David Blaine or maybe David Copperfield or Merlin. Well, that's kind of a whole different ballpark. But can science and magic ever come together? The real reason why they call magic is because it's magic. No. I mean, it's because they can't explain how someone can cause things to change with simply the will alone. But many are getting closer to explaining why this happens. Now, when I ask you about what books you have read, you know, last night we talked about being effective in our research, and I won't go into that rant, but we talked about that last night. So when I ask you about what books you've read about the occult, you might say Manly P. Hall, Eliphas Levi, or even Henry Cornelius Agrippa, Paracelsus, Arthur Edward Waite, Mathers, Crowley, Israel Regardie, Dion Fortune, the list goes on and on. We view them as magicians or wise philosophers or wizards, perhaps. Wise men that practice and study the mysteries. That's where that word wizard comes from. We even view them as men or women of renown, and some of us do, almost as if they are the only ones. But the truth is, I believe, and I want you to see, that there are men and women just like these folks living today, now, right here. Men of renown, women of renown living amongst us. Now, if you want names, I can give them to you. If you want to talk about mystics, I can tell you Daskalos, where he passed away, but his student Daniel Joseph, a true mystic. You want astrologers, I can give you some high-caliber astrologers. Austin Coppock, Jeff Harmon, Mary Ducina. What about magicians? Do you want to know some of those? We'll be speaking to one tonight. Perhaps Frater Xavier, nobody knows who his identity is. David Griffin, Gordon White, Jason Louv, Lon Malo Duquette, Nineveh Shadrach, Chick Cicero, Nick Farrell, the list goes on. Of course, they all don't agree with each other, and some even despise the others, but it was no different back in the days of old. I can give you names of shamans, mystics, magicians, astrologers. You know where I'm going with this. And if you don't know who some of these names are and you want to be effective in the study of hidden occult science, you should get familiar with some of these names. Anyways, but then there's the mage, the philosopher, the alchemist, one who studies and has practiced much of all of these subjects. These men kind of have a category of their own. Tonight, I believe we're going to be speaking with one of those men, Dr. Strange himself, Dr. Richard Alan Miller. Now, I want to tell you a quick story how I found out that magic was real. I pretty much exercised myself back when I used to have panic attacks. I told you guys I had panic attacks for 2 years, and I got desperate, almost suicidal. It was crazy. Nobody should have to live like that. So if you're living in anxiety, I'm very sorry. I hate to hear that. But I picked up the book of Psalms and just started saying the Psalms out loud. And I'll tell you a story later on about that. Some crazy things kind of happened. And I didn't find out later that that book was actually called the Shemush Tehillim. It's a magical text. I didn't know that. But it did work that way. I pretty much exercised myself. I've used sigil magic with you right here on the show. Dream interpretation. We've been as detailed as possible. We know these things are real. We've touched into them. Now, I want you to prepare your mind for this. Dr. Richard Alan Miller has a long, extensive resume in the fields of physics, metaphysics, agriculture, everything we talk about on the show. 2 of Richard Miller's high school science projects were adopted by NASA, including one used in the Mariner 4 mission to determine the amount of water on the planet Mars. At age 16, he built a linear accelerator and hydrogen bubble chamber for a science fair project and was the first American to demonstrate particles going faster than the speed of light. He's been involved in research and projects, many at top secret level, that have formed the basis of several modern-day scientific inventions. Miller's research in the field of paranormal began as a graduate physicist working 11 years with Navy Intel and Anesthesiology. His work includes foundational papers on a holographic concept of reality and embryonic holography, and works with microwaves and synthetic telepathy. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That's intense, right? Hold on a second now. He was used as Timothy Leary's experimental guinea pig to see what the effects of LSD were when taken by a Mensa-level genius. Dr. Miller was the real-life character that the X-Files Fox Mulder was based on. He's got stacks of papers and books. While you're listening to the show, I want you to go to Dr. Richard Alan Miller's website, which is richardalanmiller.com. And it's been such a long time since I've had you on the show. Thank you so much for coming back. You were afraid. You thought I was going to go on and on and on, didn't you, Doc?
I was concerned. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's not about who you are. It's what you do that defines who you are. That's Batman. And I'm telling you, that's the correct way to approach everything. You know, your answers vary. Everybody is different, but your gut knows. And when I say your gut, your instinct, when you hear the truth, it resonates like a bell inside, and that's where truth is found. And believe it or not, it's different for each of us because we're closed systems. That's why they call it a multiverse. You know, as we get into it later tonight, we can talk about the physics involved of how psyche is placed into matter and becomes real.
Well, I think it's really cool. I started listening to your metaphysics series that you taught, and it has the students asking questions, and it's really intense. And it made me think about that tonight. It was like, you know, we study all these books. Like I named off a lot of these names that we think are these great magicians, and they were, right? That they absolutely were. They were great minds. But we've got people like you and others around us today, right now, under our noses. We could be taking advantage of speaking to you or getting your material and learning this stuff on a different level, a more modern and advanced level.
You know, if you look at the Bibles, the original Bibles, before they became political, you can determine that they're essentially textbooks on science from a religious point of view. That's why you have 2 brains. You have religion and science, right and left brain. It's like a cavitation process. Actually, the correct way to look at it, it's like an hourglass. And what you have is something between the two. You don't have the past or the future. You have the moment. And that is what is called cavitation processes, and why Hermes, if you want to go there, said as above, so below. That's holographic. The sun has a binary. The galaxy, black hole, has a white hole somewhere as a model or way of looking at reality.
Well, you've got, so much information to talk about. And we can get into lots of it tonight. But I think a lot of people want to know when they get into this, they want to know where to start. And from my experience, you almost have to, it's almost like a roller coaster ride. It's a mess of chaos. I can't even explain a beginning level to get into this.
Castaneda wrote and said, the first enemy of man is fear. And so the first book that you should start your defense mechanisms on would be Psychic Self-Defense. That's where you start. You develop a set of armor so you feel like you're relatively sovereign.
By Dion
That's why you
Fortune,
draw
right?
a circle around yourself, just like Walt Disney. This is me. Everything inside this circle is me. And everything outside that circle is not me.
Gotcha.
Okay, once you have that in your mind's eye, now you're ready to begin an adventure beyond the physical. And that's why they call it metaphysics, beyond physics. Worldviews that have more length, girth, and width than the four basic dimensions. That's why we have what we call multi-dimensions of, 5 space and 6 space, where what would 5 space be? 5 space, if we're in 4 space, 5 space would be something like sliders, where all different stories were going on at the same moment. And a hologram is n dimensions of information in n-1 dimensions, which means that the brain is a 4-dimensional hologram of 5 space.
Wow.
Change the movie.
Change the movie. Yeah, that's right. What do you do nowadays, Doc? Maybe when you started this journey, you started
45
with
years
meditation.
ago. Yeah, right. 45 years ago, I trained SEAL Team 1. I was SEAL Team 1, and I trained SEAL Teams 2 and 3. I worked out of Anesthesiology, and at that time it was called SEAL Corp out of Amherst. And the first thing I did was I worked with biofeedback equipment, teaching them how to control autonomic functions like heart rate, pulse, and respiration.
Wow.
Neurolinguistics, where you're communicating without saying words by the way you fidget and the way you look when you're responding to a question. How to interrogate. That was 45 years ago. You ask me what I'm doing today, I'm doing the next level of learning how to consciously release specific neurotransmitters in my brain so I can talk to my other parts of neurotransmitters. Dimethyltryptamine is the chill that goes up your body. Ugh. I call that Kundalini. It's white light, literally, in the visible light band. That's what made it functional with the pineal gland, which is at the base of the inion. That's that big bump in the back of your head. Now, the third eye was originally there to change bodily functions predicated on seasonal changes. Light. It was light-sensitive organ. It calcified with our use of artificial lights so that you didn't pay attention to the equinoxes and solstices. These were called, back then, tattvic tides. And you had biorhythms where you had stories going on inside your body that were sometimes in sync with themselves and sometimes not.
Really?
And when you got to, when you're on task, man. When you're 4x4, you're in the slots. That is called sacred. And that's what separates the sacred from the profane. And that's why Jungian psychotherapy was another area that I chose to study to integrate with my physics. The metaphysics was basically to armor myself when I came out of graduate school. What happened next was I was assaulted like I was a freshman going to college with Rush. except that the lodges that were coming at me had creepy names to them, like Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove. And I am not a politician. I'm a nerd. And so I had to armor up, just like I did when I was 16 with Christianity. I became a Missouri Synod Catechism school so that I could armor up and have responses when they tried to put guilt on me. Now, you asked me to start this journey. The first thing that you need to do is develop a system of protocols unique to yourself that protect you from creepy Alabama ticks.
Gotcha.
Chiggers. Okay, well, they're out there. They're subspace. That's what changes a ghost into a poltergeist. A ghost is where some kind of a human element gets locked into matter. It deteriorates with ticks and chiggers and nematode.
You talking about so like
about Morgellons disease?
The bad elementals and stuff like that attach themselves to us?
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. That is how the metaphor is what is your metaphor but to serve your paradox? That's Gregory Bateson. Now, Gregory Bateson was a social anthropologist that was teaching the concepts of how we try to communicate for artificial intelligence and other kinds of languages. This was back during the time Turing was inventing Fortran. And, those black ladies were doing NASA. That was exactly, I wrote Fortran. I do code. That's what you're doing. You need to form a language and how to dialogue with your higher self.
Okay.
Your higher self does not talk in terms of images.
All right, so can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
I've used the system of the Golden Dawn, which was a kind of like a Christian and Egyptian-based magical system, and it worked for me because I was brought up a Christian. So that protocol system worked for me.
But say, in that one, now, at that time, Gurdjieff and Bennett were coming in with Eastern schools to integrate with Theosophy and the Theosophical Society. Right at that moment, there was an integration of taking older Hindu systems from the Upanishads. They talked about Gaia and the voice of the silence and the lost chord at the end of the rainbow, that what we might call 0-point energy. Is that another name for it, maybe? It's the same concepts are recurring historically in our various histories. And they manifest different, just like Tesla is different than, Edison,
right.
In the way we do automobiles today, etc. It's a metaphor. We have choices. And why we choose one thing over another is complex. Those are called archetypal gods. There's usually, in psychology, you either are possessed, you only have one story going on, one god, or you're complexed. You have more than one. And that means if you have 5 stories going on, each one has an ending. Is that how you want things to end? That is called pathworking, when you go in, subtly make changes in the storyboard that you're currently enjoying as a movie. Reality isn't real. There are Aboriginal groups that have been here a lot longer than we have. I'm not even talking about Inuit and Hopi. Get into Aborigines, and now we go way, way back into, where is that? Up in Scotland, and the tunnels that go down through Europe into Turkey. And we talk about these older cultures that had their own technologies, the Clovis culture. They're now digging up in South Mexico, down near Central America. They had spaceflight. And newsflash, they also crawled out of a cave to become the Hopi and the Navajo, first rings. Now, I know I don't know. And so I have to rely on my education. Now, you mentioned a bunch of names. I will say this. A teacher can only take you as far as that person they themselves have been.
I got you.
Aspire, okay. And in the Torah, they say that there are 50 living masters on earth at any given moment. Only 2 of them are for men. Now,
what are the
you
others
can do
for?
your own translations. Fine. That's what my metaphysics is about. I taught it at Harvard. The course you're looking at right now, that 8-week course, was in 1990. John Mack took my Meta 3 course as Dean of Psychiatry and then started his alien abduction studies at Harvard. My first note to him was, you're not going to be able to prove the existence of God with these studies. What you can do is treat the malady, the group malady. And I'm now seeing them in other things besides alien abduction. I'm seeing it with targeted individuals, gang stalking. It is like an archetypal where people are waking up and starting to notice things that don't make sense. Physics does not have the answers, and I've got 2 doctorates in physics. Okay, I'm biophysics and resonant cavity oscillators. I did 2 different massive studies, and so with that said, it's about resonance and subsystems dialoguing like your gut, where you start with viruses and they communicate to bacteria, and the bacteria communicate to single-celled organisms, and the single-celled organisms resonate up to, a small nematode, da-da-da-da-da, and we'll call that your gut, your first brain, or we could call it Gaia, with mycorrhiza in the soil. It's all around us. You have a choice in the way you can see what's going on. It's like the good old pastor Joseph when he said, is that house white or brown?
All right. Can I ask you about the go back to the metaphors? My dad used to tell me, Doc, ticks and chiggers and mosquitoes and all these fleas and this stuff, what's their purpose? They come from hell. He used to laugh about it. And
they're in your face and they dominate and have a place in your life.
Right.
Your gut is what directs your upper brain. Your upper brain, the one that's associated with the mind, but it isn't, is there to make all your beliefs true. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't believed it. Your belief systems are arbitrary. If you'd been raised in Iraq, you would not be talking about Jesus.
Right.
Who's right? The correct answer is you're both right, because you have a limited vantage point of the house that you're looking at. The side you're looking at is painted white. There's another side to the house you can't see. That's what man currently is enjoying with his physics, and why the laws in physics change every 20 years. Now, religion is the other side of it. It's like, passive and aggressive, future and past. It's a closed system, and you're somewhere like Malcolm in the middle. And what you're trying to do is find what the correct thing is to be doing. Intent is what you actually end up doing, and purpose is why you're here. And so to discover that, why you're here, that is a kind of bliss beyond love. It's the fourth state. The Greek had 3 words for love: eros, philo, and agape. They were hierarchies of different relationships of love. Eros, physical love. Now, Crowley said there's a 4th possible higher love, and the love of purpose, which is called will.
Right.
And that is Thelema or Thelema. Now, That's a Greek word that means will. And to discover your true will is what we call self-realization. There are many roads to Rome. Magic is an art form. And because it's an art form, it works with a different side of the relationship of the brain, the right and left brain. And it's a metaphor. And what is your metaphor? But to serve your paradox. And so, of course, I will have a paradox in my meadow, because that's what it's for.
But Crowley's idea was to find your true will, to get in touch with the Holy Guardian Angel was the biggest thing that you could do in their systems.
Well, that's
right?
Union with self. By the way, that's only halfway to God. There's self-realization, and then there's God realization. And the two are not the same any more than the physical plane is the emotional plane. The emotional plane, or EQ, is how you feel about the physical plane, which means it's more information about the same thing. Now we're getting down to it. And that's why I used to say you are no longer what you eat, you are whom you feed, because you've got a lot of different varmints in there. You eat too much sugar and you can smell the candida, it's a kind of a yeast.
Yeah.
Just starts growing on the surface of your elbows and under your armpits and in your crotch, because it's moist there. And it's inside your body, outside your body. It's an organism. It's part of functioning who you are. Just a little apple cider vinegar will take care of that nonsense. Now, there's all kinds of habitats. And each of us is uniquely different. And that's why medicine has failed, because one size does not fit all. What I'm saying is medicine would suggest, I'm 74 years old, so my heart rate is supposed to be 130. And if I'm over 130, I've got to be put on meds or I'll be fired. That's why
you'll be fired.
I studied biofeedback 30 years ago. I can put my heart rate in anywhere I want.
Cynthia's asking in the Spreaker chat if you know who Ram Dass is.
Richard Albert.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a new book out called Still Here. I knew him when he was Richard Albert, before he became enlightened. There are many different levels of mystics.
Right.
That's, fourth plane like Pir Vilayat Khan, fifth plane like Sharon Singh. These individuals are the 50 living Christ on earth that the Torah might suggest as a metaphor. That means on earth at any given time, there are probably 50 lead scouts out there. Only 2 of them are for men. So all your different gurus are lesser than fifth plane. Fifth plane is what we call a Param Saint or a Sat Guru, if you want to get into the terminologies correctly. They're quite different than fourth plane, like Pir Vilayat Khan would be rolling a spliff out on Orcas Island.
Well, I don't want to stick to the mundane stuff, but I'm still trying to understand the metaphor. So things in our life, physical things that we touch, that's in our life, in our habitat, are metaphors for something, a higher law or something that's higher?
That's right. That is absolutely correct. And certain dream states, like lucid dreaming, actually have more content than the daydream that you call reality. You can do things in this is where physics is now becoming. This is Radin. Others are writing his book, Real Magic.
It was a great book.
Okay. The whole concept is when you watch a woman rip a car door off to save her daughter in a flaming automobile in a heat of passion. That's not adrenaline. That adrenaline didn't make her bones stronger than steel as a physics issue. How did she do that? It's not possible.
Right.
That's why they call it paranormal, beyond normal. Now, para and meta, these are all Greek words to give you subset levels. The holographic concept of reality, as I wrote it early on, considered rather than measuring things in space and time, I measured them in levels of information and resolution of the information. Like everything was at a point, let's say, and that you looked at that point, and as you expanded it out like a fractal, that's the correct mathematics, it would be emotional, and then intellectual. And the fourth plane out would be archetypal. This is Timothy Leary and his neurologic circuit concepts. He tried to understand how the brain, as a giant crystal on top of a tower, like your body, could somehow create and change realities for everyone around you. How does that work? And it's the release of these neurotransmitters. And previous epochs in Hinduism and so on studied these bioelectric circuits. They might have called them chakras. They were highly nerve ganglia parts in the body. I don't know what a triple wormer is yet. Stay tuned on that one. But they had metaphor. The Chinese talked about qi. Now, what qi is, I'm going to give you a physics explanation. At the moment of death, there is a 5-gram weight loss in everybody. What is that? Hammeroff and others have proposed ORC theories. What that is, microtubules with structured water. And a microtubule with structured water in it, H3O2. Now, that's enough information to cover all your past, present, and future lives. If you want to play, that game of incarnation. It's all in the moment. Time is not real. That's why Carl Sagan in his movie Contact, Ellie drops down into this crystal. That crystal, by the way, was a diamond body, which is another book I've written. That's that dodecahedral universe.
Well, you and I had talked about this before. That in the book of Revelations, I was reading John's material, and I put the math to what he was saying, and I drew a dodecahedron. The length is the width.
Roger Penrose. Penrose at Princeton first started with a geometric universe. I was blessed to go to Princeton and study under him. Roger Penrose is what led me to the next level of universes, which I'm hoping now you will be inspired and go beyond me. Somebody, I wrote dodecahedral universe. There's more going on here. Now, what does this all mean? I don't know. I have some theories, and I have some assumed truths. Now, assumed truths are, can mess you up. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. We now know that isn't true. Space is curved. We now have concepts of tunneling, event horizons, precursor waves in solid-state physics, and, event horizons. With all of that said, something else is going on here that is outside space-time. So I decided we needed to make an assumption that everything was at a point, and that really what you have is resolution. Like when you have a drop of water that falls and hits a pool of water, there's a number of things that happen. The point goes poip, and that goes down into the pool of water, causes, when it comes up, 2 kinds of waves to happen, one going outward and one going inward. When it slaps itself and forms a poip the drop of water going back up out of the pool of water, except it is no longer a drop of water. It's a bubble that has captured the universe that was falling in air inside it. And inside that air is cavitating as a torus twister into the out of.
So it creates a toroidal field inside of it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, there's something more going on with what we understand is dark matter, which, by the way, the Earth is being hammered right this moment with a bunch of dark matter. That's why everybody's creepy. Kind of like full moons.
Yeah.
It has effect on your body. The sun is in a solar minimum. It's a missile going through space, deep space. It's right now going through a place in space where there's a lot of dark matter. And because it's in a solar minimum, it's no longer absorbing that dark matter. It is going around the sun and hitting the Earth. The Earth is not circling the sun. The Earth is in a helix trying to catch up with it. How's that for a different way of looking at what's going on? They're both true.
It's strange you say that because I just read an article about scientists that the telescope saw two black holes together that they say that is going to increase gravitational forces upon the Earth, like right now, very soon, or something.
The earthquakes up in Alaska, get a grip, man. When I was up in Vancouver Island a couple of months ago, I do sustainable lifeboats. I'm putting in bunkers in small communities that are self-sustaining, when the grid collapses. And I have a network across North America. And while I was up there, the forest fires up there were even worse than they were down here in Oregon. And the bunker I have has access to a satellite that has infrared. And I can see lava strikes in the Northern Territories above BC, just across from Alaska. The plate is shifting. And with it, will become new geography. Everything from I-5 west is history. Grants Pass, where I live, will become the new waterfront. This has all been written about in previous books like We Are the Earthquake Generation. Magic is a way of changing the movie. We know that things are going to change. The glass could be more than half full in that this change brings opportunity.
So are you saying we can stop that from happening if we want to? Is that possible?
That would be a nice image in your mind's eye that you could stop something. Let's stop pedophilia. That's what's causing.
We need to stop that first, for sure.
I've got a list of what I'd like to stop.
Right.
No, why bring it on? This is a challenge for my evolution in consciousness. And that's because the Clovis survived. Man always does, because he was God's favored. That's what makes us different. We were given the concept of choice.
Well, that's a good question, Joseph, in the chat room. If I'd like to believe that, I do believe in choice.
Right? I get, yep, go for it, yep.
But what about the Mandela effect? That seems like...
Mandela effect is not real.
Okay.
It was the cross-eyed bear, actually, not the three bears. And it's all Star Wars. Okay, Luke, I'm your father. That's the difference between movies and comic books. Different generations. I thought I remembered it this way. You did right. They were both things, just like the house being white and brown. Yes. They're all here. It's a closed system, which means my system is different than yours, and that's why they call it the multiverse.
This is kind of trippy. It's a lot to take in, Doc.
Well, it gives you a playing field. Yeah. Now, what is it you'd like to do? What's important to you besides, your lower chakra, grunt? What is it that's important to you?
Well, I would think I'd like to know first and foremost why I'm here. I think a lot of people want to know that. Why? And that comes with the Crowley's question, wasn't it? I believe. Why? What am I here for?
Yeah. It's called Knowledge and Conversation. A good book to start with would be Michael Persinger, Honest Journaling. That's why you keep a magical memory, your diary. It's a snapshot of the moment. The moment changes. The snapshot helps you go back to that moment. That's what's called time travel.
In your class, you said to keep a dream journal. You told your students to keep a dream journal, and in 4 months, they would see something astounding, right? And I think I kind of know what you're talking about, but I don't want to assume.
Put the effort in. You're lazy. You want to have some more Doritos on that laying down on the couch. At some point, you're all going to have to get up off the couch because guess what? I already did it. And if I've done it, man's going to do it. So there it is. Kicking and screaming. You have some choices.
That's funny. Yeah, one thing about Doc Ram is he enlightens you and scares you and astonishes you all at once in one sentence.
Well, I want you to get the possibilities of what, as a scientist, I'm excited. What do you think that Hadron Collider CERN's doing? Well, they turned it off.
They turned it off and they're updating it right now.
Yeah, guess what?
Like Windows.
They found, the broken cell in the circle of protection. You know what that is? That is a rapid transit system from Switzerland to Fermilabs in Chicago. Sorry. I'm just kidding.
That's scary, man.
Yeah, especially when you watch them doing ceremony on top of the plate trying to bring results.
I can't wait to see what hole in our reality they'll open up next. Windows does that. They do an update and everything screws up and then they fix it. These people are playing with reality.
When you see me riding across the horizon on my bicycle because I couldn't phone home, let's see where we'll go from there. I believe that we are going to be here for what they said in Armageddon, a front row seat.
Right. I got front row seats to the end of the universe right here.
Yeah, embrace the horror. The actual part of it isn't going to be like that because that's what happens to bad people. I'm a good person, so I'm kidding. It's all going to be about choice. And the last choice is the big kicker. You have a choice. And that's what they call near-death experience, where you see a tunnel of light over the blue light. And for that, you can go to the Bordeaux Thedal, because the Tibetan Buddhists are the ones that had the real technology previous centuries. I've watched them take these big, long horns, and they'll put like 13 of them in a certain geometric alignment, and it compresses the air to cause large stones to float and move. They use it with sound. And if I believe correctly, there's a book in the Bible that talks about sound called the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Formation, and how sound relates to words and how to properly say the name of God.
This is where the mantras of the ancient magicians come in and stuff, right? The vowel sounds and everything, the A, I, O, U of the Gnostics and all that.
Cymatics. taking a pool of water and trying to get the right inflection on your incantation to create sacred geometry.
Wow. Well, they're doing it with machines now. It's like, oh, check out this machine. You know, we can make, you know, geometrical shapes with sound now, which is, I'm thinking, man, they were doing that a long, long time ago. Like John Anthony West said, we assume that we're an evolved society. But
old school magic, you know, that's when you study, you were talking about Golden Dawn, they use Sigil magic. That's what Hartmann has done and continued in Germany with Sigil magic. Sigil magic came out of the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. In the Lemegeton, the lesser keys, the 72 fallen demons. I taught a course at Georgetown. I'm that level of scholar, and taught a course at Georgetown on demonology. And basically, I was able to identify 68 of the 72 sigils to Babylonian star maps, and how the stars have moved and changed the sigil. Now, the sigil is developed by having a magic square. A square is where it's got 5 numbers across by 5 down, or 7 numbers across and 7 down. And they somehow, if you add them in this direction and you add them in that direction, they're always the same. So they're a code in terms. And then you take Hebrew or English, and you do your name, Richard. R goes here, I goes there, CH. And what happens is you have a geometry that it comes out, which is the demon's name. Now, that's when Enoch said that if you had the name of the demon, you had control of the demon, like Rumpelstiltskin. So with that said, then it got interesting, because the Jesuits wanted to know how the sigils changed, moving from old Babylonian star maps when Solomon, the king, wrote that. By the way, in the Greater Keys, the second sentence says, quote, ownership is enhanced when shared with another. Now,
ownership of what?
Well, it's ethics and morals.
Okay.
An ethical man knows not to cheat on his wife. A moral man won't.
All right.
Now, that's the way I, understand things. You walk, you talk. The integrity is with self. And that's where the diary entries come in, because a language develops, or shorthand, where you can talk directly to yourself. Now, once you have access to that, where do you want to go with that?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like right now, magic is being practiced by way more people than I ever thought it would be. It's big. It's all over the internet. It's all over YouTube. And I've expressed many times that I wish people would study just a little. I don't know. I'm just kind of weary of jumping into the deep end with this stuff without doing, like you say, first thing, build yourself a wall. Self-defense.
I chose, the way I did it, everybody's different. The way I did it, I started with Quest Bookstore, the local Quest Theosophical Society. I got a good introduction, and then I went through the Bennett School of Gurdjieff. I actually did the whole ritual in that all summer. And I then went to Rosecroix and studied Rosicrucian and Builders of the Adytum. And went directly into OTO with Phyllis Seckler, Mildred Burlingame, and Helen Parsons Smith. Helen was married to Jack Parsons, and then later Wilfred Smith. And I have part of my appurtenances would include the robe that Samuel McGregor Mathers wore in Golden Dawn. I wear that robe when I do my ceremony. And it's been handed down like my swords and other appurtenances that I have. I have my usual tools. Tools are metaphors again.
Right.
And a person can clean a house with garlic. You know, it's the Jews used candles. The Torah, the constructs of the Mishnah and the Nag Hammadi. These are older books that I did my own studies on, and guess what I discovered when I started getting into the deeper forms of magic? I found, for example, that demons are kind of like lesser qualities in man that were deemed unworthy. You got jealousy, rage, anger, the usual evils of man. Those were demons. Beelzebub, Ashtaroth. They were based on Babylonian star maps and constitutions that they had because they worked like the Greek with storyboard and having. The Greeks are the reason I have a new book coming out in the next 2 months called The Magical and Ritual Use of Metaphor, Archetypal Gods in Daily Living. It's got 22 chapters. What you try to do is identify what story is going on inside you. That story has an ending, like Psyche at the Well of Souls. And it's a type of pathworking is to go in and change one of the stories rather than being a hero archetype where you die on the cross like Jesus Christ as a metaphor. The forms I use are James Hillman. I was blessed to study with James Hillman and Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, so I have a sense of imaginal psychology, what they call third generation Jungian. There was Carl Jung, the second Jung. When I remember when they asked Carl Jung, well, what was it like to be on the shoulders of a great man? Sigmund Freud. And Jung said, well, one can see much further from up here. Sarcasm aside, the idea of metaphor is that we each of us have a language that we identify with, and the way we choose to do what John Bohm calls different similarities and similar differences. And the way you chunk that, going from a tire down to the wheel and the lug nuts, has to do with the physical, emotional, intellectual. And what I did is I identified those as neurotransmitters, primary neurotransmitters in my brain. The lysergic acid amide, that's like LSD. It's not LSD. It's like LSD. That neurotransmitter is called AHA. That is the one that allows you to connect one dot with another. Now, how important is that in terms of taking psyche into matter? That if you learn how to connect one dot with another in your mind's eye using direct release of neurotransmitters, like I 45 years ago did my heart rate, pulse, and respiration. Now you're going to experience what I call the full Monty in terms of alternate universes and all kinds of storyboards going on out there. That's why I am Dr. Strange. I am encountering universes now I could not even begin to articulate. I simply don't have the dialogue.
Can we try?
Well, here we are.
I do got to take a break. We already skipped the first one, though, Doc, but I got to take a break. But when you get on the roll,
it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, when you get on the roll, I don't want to interrupt it. But
I know.
One thing I wanted to talk about when we come back is I've got a lot of people that tell me that they're awake, and now that they're awake, they understand that they're a slave, and I have a problem.
Good luck with that, man.
I have a problem buying into that. But we can talk about that when we come back. We got to take a break. We're here with Dr. Strange himself, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I hope you're paying attention.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Do you ever wonder why there's so much show in politics? Do you ever wonder why America's not getting fixed? Ever wonder why our media is not reporting the news? They report only their biased opinion. Are you tired of feeling like a controlled rat? Do you wonder what's next? If you're looking for answers, join me, Ronnie McMullen, for my new show, Deep Waters Radio. That's Deep Waters Radio. Monday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM. See you then.
Hi, guys. Matt Ray with America's First News. And if you're like me, you're probably still looking for that special Christmas gift for your wife or girlfriend. Treat her to the very best this year. The world's softest pajamas from Pajamagram. Because they are the world's softest pajamas, they're lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny. They're like cashmere, only better, and you'll love the way they look. She'll love the way they feel. The softness, the warmth, the comfort. And if you're like me, you can't stand wrapping presents. It's tough to do. Well, get this. Pajamagram includes free gift packaging. All you have to do is make the order, and delivery is guaranteed by Christmas. Plus, they're backed by a 100% lifetime guarantee. You risk nothing but the look on her face, guys, when she opens the Pajamagram. So go to Pajamagram.com right now. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you. That's Pajamagram.com. Tell them Matt Ray sent you.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on the Fringe FM.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shithead.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Alex. I was thinking about the cops because I was looking at photos and stuff online. It seems like more and more I'm seeing police with tattoos, and I'm sorry. I can't tell the gangbangers from the cops now. I mean, what if they had them on their face? Now, that would be crazy, because that's where it really originates from. A lot of people don't know that. I know it's a big thing now on like rappers and everybody's doing it. Gang members have them. Everybody's kind of doing it now. Musicians and tattoos on their face, crosses, crucifix and stuff like that. Crucifix, that's what's really funny to me, because it's all satanic. All of it. All of it. Tattoos are straight from hell. Hell sent. Straight from hell. Straight from the bowels of hell. All tattoos. All tattoos. Period. End of story. Oh, you didn't know that? Because they were trying to represent the actual demon gods that they worshipped. Straight from hell. Pure evil. Straight from the bowels of hell from Satan himself.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Okay, we got to go back. Here we go. I'll talk to you about this next break. All right, guys, we're back. Welcome back to Lighting the Void here. I was just talking about, during the break, I'm going to continue talking to Doc, all right? So I hope you're paying attention, because we're here with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Doc Ram himself. And before the break, I was asking you about the concept of slavery, right? So when people, and this is something that, I'm not assuming I know about, but the more awake I become when I learn this stuff, I don't feel like I'm a slave. Matter of fact, I'm learning to love life even more. And yet I keep running into this thing where, well, soon enough you'll wake up and you'll realize you're a slave and you're not in control of anything. And I'm like, what? That's kind of daunting. Is there any truth to that, you think? Doc? God, I was just talking to him. Where'd he go?
I was right there, and now I'm back.
Okay, there you go.
I had my mic off. I forgot.
That's all right.
I had my mic off. Yeah, I had it muted. Sorry.
So do you think there's any truth to that?
It's Simon says you can go halfway to the door. You'll never get there with that protocol. What you have in that regard is the journey. Now, life is not about the journey. It's got edges to it. It's about the quality of it. In other words, karma and having intent become closer to purpose. Intent is what actually happens at the end of the day. At the end of the day, mostly you have approached how to get where you are because of your wounds. Your wounds are what make you different than me. You had wounds from just last night down to something when you were a little boy. Wounds are what make you alive. Alive is a kind of illusion, reality. It's not reality, the illusion. It's an illusion. It's not real. It is like having free will over true will. Free will means you have full disclosure. You don't have free will because you don't have full disclosure. You have the right toward getting there, like Simon says, halfway to the door. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, you can't get there from there. So what's that all about? Well, let's revision things. Remember when I said you start in physics, starts with definitions and assumed truths. Definition is what I might call a line. A line has one dimension to it. It only goes from here to there, whereas a tick can go sideways. So it now has two dimensions. We have a third dimension going down through the paper like an air molecule. And there's time over a period of time. And then there's a fifth dimension, and then a sixth, and a seventh. And right now, our current physics says that there are at least 10 primary dimensions and one interconnecting 11th dimension. That's string theory, all the different forms of it. The current direction in mathematics is with knot theory, which is a string that has now been tied into a knot like a plasma, where it has a sheath, or the string does not interface with itself. And so what you have now is a bowline. And you pull on both sides of that, and the bowline squeezes the universe in a specific way that's different than a slip knot. All of them are different. They're arbitrary. That's called knot theory. Kaufman, mathematician, is if you're interested and want to go down deep in it like I have, the math on it would be Kaufman is being used. There are several others on the using advanced string theories to now move to what we go from a what they called a large set of universes, alternate universes, mandala, timelines, into what's called the multiverse. Now, the multiverse is there's systems of life forms. We'll call them AIs that can go places man can't and can get there quicker. For example, the third generation D-Wave technology can now, in Chicago in a specific district, predict crime 28 minutes before it actually occurs.
What?
They're using, it's like, that's a system using third generation D-Wave technology.
Wow.
This is artificial. Okay, now that means a computer knows what you're going to do 28 minutes before you do. However, that's intent because you're coming from a place of wounding. You say, when I have anger, if I'm like Bruce Lee and I become the water, I embrace it by putting it in a glass. I have containerized it. That's what we did with demonology. We containerized similar differences and different similarities. And the 72 that were done originally in previous epochs were qualities in man deemed unworthy.
Now, we gave them those names, though. They weren't originally called those names, right?
That's a metaphor for the way you break down something. Are there 7 chakras, or are there 8 neurotransmitters, or are there 9 stars, or is there just a single monad, 10? You know, numerology is a whole major part of biblical Kabbalah. And I became a Hermetic Kabbalist. I like mathematics.
Yeah, me too.
So, well, I just, everybody's different. Some people are more artistic and want to come from a more aesthetic point of view. What's more important, IQ or EQ? Well, Bene Jesuits come to mind with the idea that emotional intelligence is detailed how you feel about the physical intelligence. The physical world has a set of laws or a set of realities. The emotional relationship to it is how you feel about it.
Can I ask you about that before we go on real quick? Because
let's go. Yeah.
I talked to Thomas Campbell, who created HemiSync, right? He's been on the show a couple times. He helped Robert Monroe create HemiSync, anyways, as a NASA physicist. And he was talking about paranormal activity. And I asked him about that. He said, well, we live in he's got his theories, right? His big theory of everything. And he talks about that we're in a system of laws and all of this stuff, and paranormal activity can happen as long as it doesn't change the substrata. It doesn't change the system. So it'll happen every now and then. Because we were talking about the Matrix.
It's not an anomaly. It's not an anomaly like the house is white. The house has other sides to it that man has not yet been able to see because he only has 2 eyes, has to see it from a certain vantage point.
Okay.
Whenever you look at something, you can't see the other side of it. Now, there are breaks and schisms where man is getting outside of the physical world, where all of a sudden he might have a flying experience of astral projection.
Or levitation.
See himself. Yeah, in the Bible, they might call that witnessing. To be able to watch yourself. Now, it's a type of meditation. It is a level or quality of detail of going from one subset to the next. And archetypal, and the reason I said there was physical, emotional, intellectual, archetypal, by the way, that's all outlined in Chapter 8 of Workbook 1 on Leary's neurologic circuits. And all of my books are different than Crowley, where he used them as Liber or book number, LBX, whatever.
Isn't that what the magician's tools represent too?
Yeah, it's a metaphor, like correspondences. When you have something in front of you, here it is. It's this thing, and you're looking at it, has qualities to it. By identifying and cataloging these qualities, determines what it is. And that's how we use metaphor. It's the relationship of one thing to the next. And numbers and sounds have a relationship in terms of the physics of octaves. What was that? What was his name? That was Pythagoras. Pythagoras is the one that came up with the whole concept of chords and working with 8. That's why I chose Leary, because it was also 8, easy to work with I Ching, which is 64 hexagrams, and you have the dyads. It's all in metaphor, so that my chapters, each one has a relationship. For example, in my book, Power Tools, the one on sound, the chapter on sound, and the metaphors of sound have to do with the control of breath. With breath control, I was able to change martial arts for Navy SEALs, so they became like Paranormal, because they experienced their boxing as Tai Chi, when in fact it was Hungar. And that's how, using the control of breath, I was able to slow my experience of time down to the point where I had the precision of paranormal boxing. Now, that's one of the chapters. I think it's chapter 3 in the Power Tools. They were these different protocols. I trained SEALs to be Superman.
So if I knew what you trained, if I practiced in this, and say I was being interrogated by an enemy or something, like they were beating me or torturing me or trying to get answers out of me, I could control the situation more than most people could, as far as how I react to it.
Giving you an edge, like you're not quite to the door, but you've done Simon Says so many times, you're closer to it than ever. It's just you never really get to the door. It's a process, and everybody's different. Remember when I said one size does not fit all?
Yeah.
What is healthy for one man is not healthy for another. We're all different, and our homeostasis, our balances are different. Our gut is different. Our needs, our wounds, which separates me from you, which makes me isolated from you, whereas on the 4th level, which is archetypal, is that place where I am you, and you are me, and I am the walrus. Now, because I am enlightened in that sense, to the limited extent that I am, you're going to be there shortly.
That's cool.
It's not about me. It's about us. We represent the length, girth, and width of what man is potentially capable of, and the diversity of it. It's just, and the blessing of it.
I try to understand this, though, from the Sephriot Sira, up, down, left, right, in and out, and then my brain gets tangled up after that. Even the hypercube, I can understand that, but any more past that, my brain just gets, I don't know, I just can't understand it.
The first thing you do is you don't say it. You are defeating yourself right that moment by saying, I can't get it. You're like listening to yourself and programming yourself. Watch yourself and change all things like that. That's called introspection.
Right.
Even if it's true, don't say it.
Right, there you go. Well, you're right, though. I mean, it is introspection.
Because
you pretty much did
say, I just, at some point, I can't understand it. No, you will understand it, because I already I do. Trust me when I tell you that. A little max headroom.
Well, that's you're right in a way, because I think what's his name? I forget his name. I call him. It's not Steiner, but it's a modern guy. I forget his name, but anyways, they were doing, when humans they could only run so fast, and then somebody broke the record in track, right? At the 11 to dash record.
Yeah.
Once that record was broken,
Washington State University, the 4-minute mile. I remember it. Jerry
once
Lindgren.
it was broken, it became nothing to the human race after that.
That's correct.
It got passed.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. We can do that consciously too, because
we
got there.
are doing that consciously. Not we can do that. We are doing that. And so, yes, people are waking up, but it's a process. And there are different levels of awake. That's why we have different kinds of dreams.
Now, let me tell you, I had a dream last night. I drove a car into a house because I was being chased by a cop. Right into a house through a doorway, and I couldn't get out of the car. And then the guy that was in the car with me disappeared, and I'm supposed to figure out what the hell that means?
You're not, okay. The correct way to approach that is not about what happened. How did you feel about it? What was the general, were you frustrated?
I was scared because I was screwed. I felt like, yep, I'm screwed. He got me.
So you had no choices.
Right.
That's the way you would write that.
Gotcha. So I would write that in my journal.
And when you start to dialogue like that, something's going to happen. That's Ira Progoff. There is another one that you might enjoy. Stephen Kaplan Williams. Kaplan Williams is hyphenated. He wrote the Jungian Senoi Dream Manual. It's how the Senoi, as an Aboriginal tribe, use dream time as their reality rather than awake conscious time.
Huh.
It's a very interesting culture.
So back to the question about slaves. So we are kinda and we're not kinda. It's a process, basically.
That's correct. There's levels of the hologram, and what you're trying to do is fill in the detail. And that's where you go from the profane into the sacred, where the moment is no longer about time.
Have you been to this place called the Hall of Records that people talk about a lot?
The Akashic Records, yes. I know that image, yes. It is described, again, in the Bordeaux Thedal, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I think that spacecraft that's crashed on the other side of the moon is probably Tibetan, but I'm just kidding. That's most likely why they are closer to God in the high mountains. It's a way of being. It's a different kind of a lifestyle, like Shiva, where your entire existence is to serve.
So that earlier you were talking about when we get to certain levels of, I guess you could say, awareness, then we have that. There's a big choice to make. Now I read this somewhere, and I think it had to pertain with the Kabbalah, but I don't know what book it was, where certain, I guess, magicians, whatever, had to make a choice whether to stay here and help out mankind or move on.
Oh, the dark side, Luke. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what they call coming back to do Siva, or service. I'm a satsangi. I was initiated by Sharan Singh himself, and so I have been training my mind in meditation since 1976. I've been actively trying to be a good satsangi. I'm not a very good one. I smoke pot and I do all kinds of naughty things.
So
I believe, well, I'm human. I'm not trying to be a god. I'm not trying to be a saint. However, when I close my eyes, that's where I want to go. I want to go where a saint goes. And I'm close. It's very exciting.
There's something I wanted to ask you about, too, that while it's on my mind, I know you guys don't, golly, they're taking so many turns here, but it's all interconnected, I promise. In Manly P. Hall's book, he wrote, it was a short book, What the Ancient Wisdom Expects from His Disciples. And he talked about the mystery school buildings here were still only exoteric forms of the real mystery schools, and that there were hidden masters, and only people would know that they've been there or not. Like if you had ever had to ask, was I initiated? Then you really weren't. What I got from that book is that there were temples or places or hidden masters in the inner realms. That's how I interpreted what he was saying. Is there any truth to that?
Shambhala. Well, Mary Height has written on self-initiation. Initiation is a ritual, and rituals are the celebration of myths. And so you have to work with a mythology. And I chose Greek pantheon because they were more human than, let's say, Egyptian. You know, when you deal with Ra and Isis, they're not as humanistic, and they're more harder to associate with than, Psyche at the Well of Souls, and the relationship you have with yourself and the stories. There are basically, from a Greek technology point of view, there were 22 basic stories, paths in the big city. And each of us is a variation of that, like the puer wounding and Ulysses scarring. Puer wounding is when you got a wound and you cry and you whimper and you become Ulysses. When you realize you're no longer a god, you're a human being, and you choose mortality over immortality. It is a story in the way you would relate to yourself. And the mythologies there are 22 different stories going on, and each of us probably have half a dozen of them inside each of us. And we have different ones that we're doing, because of the way Dad did this and the way Mom did that, and my brothers and sisters. All of this is part of consciousness. And to actually use these energies like tools in a toolbox is the new direction that's called magic. Right. For example, anger. When I'm angry, I will take that anger and I will clean my kitchen floor. And let me tell you what my kitchen floor must look like.
Spotless, right?
Well, then there it is. You have a choice on how you use these energies. And they're tools in a toolbox. And demons have their own place in the use and scheme of things if they're containerized, like Rumpelstiltskin. And that's why the study of this is a metaphor for coming up with your own religion and your own way of doing things. And each of us is quite different. Magic is an art form. It is the art of changing consciousness at will. And that's what I'm practicing right now with neurotransmitters. I started with drugs, monitoring with electronic medical devices, and now I'm literally trying to do it in my mind's eye using geometry and other kind of visual imaging techniques. I've written 3 books for the military on that. It's called The Diamond Body, Electromagic, and Yogatronics. I can put a Mora machine, which is a German acupuncture. It has wave shaping ability, so that you put these electrodes on your head and you set up a language of pulses to talk to specific neurotransmitters. And once you've got one, you've got 3 others that have similar languages that you can talk to. And those work.
Are you telling me that you got one of those hats that Doc wore in Back to the Future when he was trying to read Marty's head?
Just like in the movies, huh? Yeah, but mine's a Mora. Mora is German acupuncture. I did this in the 70s for the military. It's called video feedback systems. We wrote, when I was teaching at Evergreen, we did a movie that won Best Picture of the Year at Cannes. I was first faculty. And it was called Eat the Sun, Then You Will Be Your Own Father. And it was about a new religion based on biofeedback. where what you were doing was monitoring all your autonomic functions and putting them in perfect sync with each other. Because when they were in perfect sync, then you had union and had the unknowable truth. Now, God, by definition, is that which cannot be known. That means it's not possible to know God. You can experience him, like you can see the house. But to know God is to see all through it. And you couldn't possibly do that any more than you can see the house. And so what you have is a hierarchy of gods out there. Orca has a cerebral cortex that's twice the size of man. And that mammal is firing 60% of it. That makes it a god. That means that mammal is able to go in places man cannot conceptualize by definition.
Are you telling me we got animals on this earth that can travel interdimensionally and we probably just don't know it?
Well, that's Hitchhiker's Guide. Who knows? Or, thanks for all the fish. Right. Well, I and Star Trek with the whales and their songs, there are 4 cetacean that have larger brain cases than man. And I have watched an elephant in Indonesia paint itself with such awareness that is way more than anything man has in self-awareness. Now, I don't know, about other kinds of intellect, but when I was at Dolphins Plus in Key Largo, I was in the pool with what I felt to be alien-based life forms. They were more intelligent than me. They had senses that I do not have.
Mm-hmm.
Like the one that towed me through the water on its fin knew that my left arm wasn't real, doesn't have any bone in it. It's a Navy SEAL thing. And it pulled me accordingly. And the handler for the dolphin had no clue. The dolphin did. And dolphin is lower on the food chain. There's the manatee and pilot whale further down. Now, when I studied Hermetic Kabbalism, they talk about Kether.
Right.
But I have always liked Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan's hard. And Bob Dylan is out there, though, right? I mean,
guys, everybody's got to serve somebody. But they have, in the Tree of Life, there are the veils of Isis, Ein Sof, and Ein Sof Ur. And even in the Bible, they talk about several different gods. There's Yahweh, and then there's Yahweh, a boss. They're, at least the way my Bibles are different, and the way they act, they behave. And I don't know. In that sense of it, may never know. It's like that. You have a choice. Is there a God or not? My parents were agnostic. They didn't believe in anything after death. I'm a good enough physicist that I am noticing there's something else going on here. That has led me to a strong conviction that there's way more going on here. And aliens, for example, our creator. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, that's what I was trying. See, that's what I was trying to figure out when I asked you that question. Because when I first read that book, Manly P. Hall had me thinking, okay, so if we astral travel, we're going to go to the real temples where the real masters are, and it's still. What you're saying is it's probably still just metaphor based on your current path.
Well, each of us do it differently. When we have clairvoyance, we also have clairsentient and clairaudience. That means that information, clairvoyance, what sound, to me, whatever, that clairvoyance is in one of the 5 senses. That information was already present in you, but the way you communicated it to consciousness, you had to put a word around it, containerize it into a metaphor. And so comes the accuracy. And as we get older and more experienced, we become more accurate in terms of what we're actually hearing, seeing, and feeling without our eyes or ears.
Is this why some of the people that describe themselves when they do dimethyltryptamine and they go on these trips, that they try to explain it, but they can't?
Because there are no words for it, any more than your dream.
Yeah.
It's trying to make sense of it from a consciousness point of view, and it's not going to work. What you're trying to do is bring consciousness up to another level of awareness. And that's where you're doing it kicking and screaming like a little brat. You don't want to do it. You don't want to believe it. Jesus said it. I believe it. And that's that. Fundamentalism.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is a tool that the reason I went to church was to find individuals that had similar beliefs to my own, to reinforce my holding myself together with my own beliefs. And at some point, I discovered that I am my own church, and I go to a lot of different churches now for fellowship. And, you know, to play baseball, to have fun. I like these people and their values. I like the way they behave. They make me feel comfortable. I feel, you know, that kind of thing. But each of us is unique. And so all these different wars on religion. Do you know how many people have been killed in the name of Jesus?
Millions.
And it's that's not what Christianity. And have you noticed that all religions are guilty of their foundation? Like Christians make judgment.
That's right. Yeah.
It's arbitrary. If you'd been born in Pakistan, you would not be a Christian. And many Muslims are way more rigorous in their attempts to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's almost like in the West, in the Christian side, we live in guilt and judgment. We just keep creating walls in our life that way, you know. I've seen that
really,
many times.
It's a Buddhist can be a Christian, but a Christian cannot be a Buddhist. It's about worldviews. Now, with that all said, if you had to categorize me in what religion, I'm probably a Quaker.
A Quaker? I was going to say a Hermetic Kabbalist, but Quaker, yeah, I guess.
No, I'm probably a Quaker. You know, and I apologize for me pointing the shotgun at you, but, you know, I have to protect my family. Well, that's it.
So you never met. So, okay, so back to that question then. So you've never met. Have you ever met beings in these realms, like really? Like other beings in the astral realm that you could communicate with? Or were you always just communicating with yourself?
No. I've had phenomena. I've had creepy phenomena. I've had creepy phenomena that was witnessed. That means other people caught it. Creepy stuff. We did a ritual once up in Washington on a beach where it was a class I was teaching. And we were going to do a ritual to see what would happen. You know? And we got a big circle around us. We had the fire going on the beach. And we conjured up a demon. And what happened is the wind off the ocean stopped at the very moment we were creating the demon. And the smoke went straight up into the air. And then the wind formed it into an image of something. It was very creepy.
What in the hell were you guys doing that for?
Well, because we could, like a dog licking its balls. I don't know. I started from scratch. You know, I mean, you start with You don't know what's going on, so let's say what's going on. We'll take this old book, and we'll do the ritual, and we'll keep a diary of what happened. Now, here's the bad news. I once did magic for money, and got it. The way I got it wasn't exactly the way I wanted it, though. See, that's the deal. Yeah. And so when a truck ran over me and I got insurance for my broken leg. Now, with that said.
So you cast for money and it came to you in the best way it could.
Not exactly the way I wanted it, yeah. That is why they talk about the distinctions of why you do magic and for what purpose. And the path working is doesn't matter what it costs if it's for spiritual growth. If you're doing it to grow spiritually, it doesn't matter what it costs you. That's my value. That may not be true for somebody else. I don't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for myself. For myself, I only do it for spiritual growth. And then it doesn't matter how bad it gets.
It's tempting, though. I'll be honest with you. I've talked to a lot of people here, listeners, that want to do magic. They want to invoke demons and make pacts and do sigils. And I always tell them,
orgasms. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's we have that called swingers. What I have discovered is that it is a more private thing, intimate with self, and that the partner is the feminine inner part of yourself. In fact, that movie, All That Jazz, it's Showtime, is accurate in one sense in that there are soulmates and all that kind of thing, but you came into this world alone and you leave it alone. And you find people along the way that you help and help you. And what you're trying to do is not create train wrecks, but personal growth. And so you, for example, don't want to make the same mistake twice. That's why you keep a diary. And that it's a metaphor.
It's important to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to make the same mistakes. You want it to be you're moving towards something, not you're going around in a circle. That is the second part of path working. You are going somewhere, and you have a destination in mind as a metaphor, and it might be financial, it might be emotional. It might be intellectual. It might be enlightenment. Now, in the Upanishads, they had 8 levels of cosmic consciousness. And one of the tools used in previous epochs was sex.
Right.
Why? Well, the thought that occurs at the moment of climax happens. That's Aleister Crowley, in my own words. That's the Mass of the Holy Ghost. Now, it's a metaphor, again. What you're doing is using your emotional as a tool, and you take edges up to as high as you can in all manners, including awareness.
And see, that's what freaks people out about Crowley, though, because they did it, according to a lot of people, they did it freely. It scared them, to be so free about it. And yet, some of the Gnostic texts talk about how sacred this act is and that you should only do it with somebody you love and all this other stuff,
Crowley, now it's also true. You're talking about Diary of a Drug Fiend and Cephalo.
Right.
Crowley, a teacher, as I said, can only take you as far as they themselves have been. And like Tombstone, Crowley died as a drug addict in Hastings.
Right. Yeah.
And so addiction, the difference between something being an addiction and a tool is the finest of edges, when Simon said. And so when you understand yourself in the distinction of the one to the other, that's where you go from the profane into the sacred. And that's the place where an AI cannot go. It can see your wounds and intent. It can't go into purpose.
All right, well, let me ask you this. This Chinese guy...
conflict.
Well, this Chinese guy that's editing... Now, he's disappeared, by the way, but was editing the genetics of babies. I mean, if we are who we are, do we have a choice who we are before we get here? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's just to prevent HIV and all that stuff, but I don't think I would want any scientist or doctor manipulating the genetics of my kid. They call that
epigenetics, outside the body. There's genetics and there's epigenetics. Into the out of. You have as much control as you want. It's not predetermined. And Mandala is still alive.
This is the first question I asked you the very first time I interviewed you was, what do you believe that the human has the potential of becoming? We believe we're powerless, like we're just these little powerless beings that are, controlled by everything. But have we really tapped into our real power, and our real potential?
Captain Marvel, stay tuned. Warlock and Son of Satan. You haven't even seen anything yet. I collected comic books. Boy, are we in for a rush. Because that's where it all started. Hollywood.
And so now, we don't. The first time I asked you this, you said we have power to become a living God, pretty much, if we wanted to be.
Well, what you conceive of as God-like, yes, you can do that, and even more than that. And that isn't what God is.
Yeah, that's Satan talking. I get what you're saying.
Well, no. Here's the other part of that.
Yeah.
In all things that are men, it's polarized. God is. It isn't about Satan. God is. God doesn't have an archetype evil twin. He's lesser. He's not important. God doesn't care. Because it's man that polarized God into two entities. Just like nuclear energy. Is nuclear energy a good thing or a bad thing? The correct answer is yes. It can heal and it can kill. It's got an evil side and a good side. Fullerenes, water, all of it. Deuterium. So with that said, it is to understand yourself and where your lines are for good and evil. And the way Isaac Bonewitz, the original author of Real Magic, before Radin was born, by the way, started the Druids. He came out of Berkeley, and there was a chapter 5 that said white magic, black magic, and living color. It's not about religion. It is an art form like sculpting or painting. And if I stipple and crosshatch with a pencil, the way I do it is going to look different than someone else doing the same pencil artwork. No one's alike. Everyone is uniquely different. And magic is that aspect of art. It is an art form, the way you do it. The Jesuits used a cat o' nine tails. How did they do it in Hot Fuzz? Or YARP? For the greater good.
Well, what about alchemy, though, right? Is that different for everybody, that transmutation?
Now we call it chemistry, and we're still dealing with geometry, and whether something's from a natural source or from an artificial source. That's why the Germans called it standardized extract, and the new direction now is called full spectrum. When you go out into the woods, for example, and you get an aspen tree, the aspen bark and the aspen leaf is a seed of salicylic acid. It's aspirin. But it also has counter chemistries in it that are unrelated called buffers. Now, which one is better? Going in and hammering or doing a natural source? You've got belief systems going on here and metaphor.
And even in our medicine?
Seen it. What's that? Oh, yeah. Medicine's creepy. Instead of dying by leukemia, we'll kill you with radiation. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, I know that you're big into herbs and stuff, too, and I've always kind of wondered about that. I don't know much about it.
Well, that's one of the other things. I'm an anesthesiologist, Harvard Medical, my internship at the UW. Here we are. I'm looking at the idea of using a polysaccharide. You got sugar, it's a little tiny molecule here, and you got a beta-glucan. Beta-glucan is a sugar molecule, but it's all three-dimensional structure, and it's a little bit, looks like either a large virus or a small bacteria. And then you have a polysaccharide, this huge, long sugar molecule that as it breaks down, it releases oxygen into the body on a cellular level. And you put that as a supplement in your diet, which is chapter 1 in Power Tools. That was the first thing I did with SEALs. You have to have a launch pad. You don't have a physical body. How could you have a spiritual one? They're metaphor. So you want to know how spiritual healthy someone is spiritually? Look at their physical plane. That's why Castaneda talked about the warrior walking. Don't let them see your defects. 0 defects.
Yeah, we were talking about Castaneda the other night where he was discussing the 4 enemies of a man of knowledge. And you're right. The first one was fear.
Then it comes to power. Once you've overcome fear, you have personal power. What happens next is you see through that and you have clarity. And unfortunately, seeing things clearly becomes a limitation. That was the 3rd enemy. I'm currently enjoying the 4th one, which is old age.
That's the most brutal though one. You can't really beat it.
I'm too old to do anything about it. Yeah, that's it. But I can put my footprints out there in the books I write and hope that you take my footprints and write your next book. Move us forward. Because if I'm here, you're going to be here shortly. Easily.
You've got a lot of material out there. A lot.
Yeah, well, I'm MacGyver.
That's true.
That's what I did. Yeah.
But I'm like I said, I've never really heard an interview you've done thousands of radio interviews, I imagine, and still haven't talked about all of the things that you know or studied.
We're just beginning.
I can't imagine.
It's going to be Argentine tango. And guess what? The movie Tango Lesson, 2 of the lessons aren't even about dancing.
That's a good question, Cynthia. I was thinking the same thing because I've been under the knife too. How close to death is someone when they're under anesthesia?
You're right down there at 0. That's what they do. They take you down to almost 0. It's called cardiac output. And when you're at that stage, they do terrible, terrible things to you so your body doesn't freak out and go into shock.
That's so freaky, man.
Yeah, it is. But you do that when you sneeze. You do that when you snore. There are many different times. Hiccup. These are the way you squeeze your heart and your relationship to Schumann's resonance and the aortic arch and all the things. There's a cycle thing going on. The actual stochastic pressure from the aortic arch to the heart, when it goes ka-chum-plum, it's actually hitting that 7.84 cycles. And it's interesting that we have evolved to be in sync with our environment, sort of like mycorrhiza, where you have soil viruses, and then the mycelium, and moving into the smaller animals like nematode and thrip, and then you move up into the larger things. There's a woman up in UBC in forestry that talks about the mother tree, where when a storm in a forest, the largest tree will send a signal through the forest to let people know, let the other plants know that when there's going to be a storm or a snow or a forest fire. I've noted that that's how we talk to ourselves, is in resonant cavity oscillators, going from one subset to the other. And when you do that, even like in the brain with sugars and going across the blood-brain barrier with making, in the neural cavity where you can make nerve tissue rather than glial cell, there's meditations that you can do where you literally can regenerate your body. Ward Dean, he's Surgeon General for the Marine Corps, has written a book called Biological Aging Mechanisms, Clinical Approach. What he did is he went to different universities and he measures the different ways we define aging. And every single measurement that's used in China or in Japan or Russia, the United States for aging, they're all different. Every single one of them is reversible.
That's very, very interesting, because I used to visit a temple in Nevada. It was a Rosicrucian temple back when I was going through the mystery schools or whatever. And there was a guy that was an adept in there. And every year that I saw him, he got older, but he looked younger, And I asked him, I said, how are you doing that? Surgery, And he would just look at me and smile. He said, you'll understand one day. He said, it's in the books, right? And I'm thinking, in the books of what? And he kind of started hinting around alchemy. And I was thinking, what in the hell is this? It kind of freaked me out a little bit, to be honest with you.
So there are anti-aging enzymes and things that you can do for wrinkles. For me, I take a pharmaceutical mushroom every day called cordyceps for the polysaccharides. I am delivering oxygen to my body on a cellular level. These big polysaccharides, these big sugar molecules, when they break down, they release, a single one will release as many as 100 oxygen molecules inside the cell. And if you knock that now down into nanometer size, which we have done using jet engines and so on, instead of 80 mesh where it goes through your gut before it circulates through the body, where you spray it on your body and it falls into the organ by gravity. There's new delivery systems in pharmaceutical trade. We used to use DMSO. Today, we knock it down to 40 nanometers. When you put something in 40 nanometers in water, it will not sedimate out, and it will not change the optics. And why Coca-Cola Asia now no longer uses sugar. They use cordyceps as the sugaring agent in their soft drinks. And Coca-Cola Asia is way better for you than the sugar that you get from drinking soda pop here in the Americas. I also find it really interesting that China owns 50% of Grants Pass, Oregon, where I live. And I watched the Paradise Fire, and I can tell you that was a good way to get that land back to China.
Right. Well, we're at the. That's just crazy. We're at the top of the. I said right like I understood, but that was crazy what you just said. I don't know.
I just thought I'd drop that in there.
Yeah, that just finally hit me. So here, yeah. So we got a few minutes left with the doc here. I'm going to get to some of your questions. We do got to take a news break. We'll be right back. Sure. You guys make sure you put your questions in caps if you put them in the chat room. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. RichardAllenMiller.com is the website. Stick around.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Mysterious glowing green fireball is seen above Russia's scientific city, Research Institute. The bright flash and streaking tail was spotted by stunned motorists in Siberia. The area's research institute has been dubbed Vladimir Putin's secret weapon. Astronomers were left bewildered as there was no meteor shower expected. This article's posted at the Daily Mail UK. And the International Space Station is infested with mysterious space bugs that may be leaving astronauts at risk of serious harm, according to a new study. Scientists discovered a thriving ecosystem of infectious organisms aboard the station, which are similar to bugs found in hospitals on Earth. A NASA team found 5 different varieties of Enterobacter, with researchers calculating that there is a 79% probability that they may potentially cause disease. The toilet on board the orbiting space station was listed as one of the main sites of infection, alongside the base's exercise area. This article's posted at The Sun UK. And a woman claims a giant flying creature in Ohio was 3 times the size of her SUV. A woman in Ohio on Thursday said she saw a huge flying creature. The 23-year-old woman, who provided her full name but did ask to remain anonymous, told Cryptozoology News she was driving with her fiancé when they spotted the oddity on Wednesday at about 5:45 p.m. Quote, "We were waiting at a red light. It flew over the hospital building," she said. The eyewitness described the being as 2 to 3 times the size of their vehicle. It had elbow-like wings, it was darker than the sky, and the wings were huge, she added. She explained that the unidentified animal was only visible for about 10 seconds. "I'm glad we both saw it, not just one of us," she said. If you remember last week, a Wisconsin man claimed to have seen a bird that resembled a pterodactyl. This story was reported at cryptozoologynews.com. And time for this edition's fun fact. Portland, Oregon was named on a coin flip. Had the coin landed the other way, the city would have been known as Boston, Oregon. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, anchor and news sorcerer.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Magic, the occult, history, health, news.
These are just a few subjects discussed on my radio broadcast, The Secret Teachings. I offer unique and objective perspectives on new and old subjects alike, while welcoming guests and presenting my own research with no filter. Visit my website for more information and to subscribe to my archive at www.thesecretteachings.info, and find me on The Fringe FM live Monday through Friday, midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find us on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, we will include our #1 rated appetite suppressant spray free with your order. Whatever your diet plans are, start with us at faststartdiet.com and use promo code POWERSAVE.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
Thank you, Sammy. Yes, this is Lighting the Void, and I'm Joe Roop, and we are here with Dr. Richard Allen Miller, live on one of the best networks on the planet, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. Now, right now is the chance to get your questions in, if you got them, because we only got a few more minutes left with the doc. And the first question I got here in the Spreaker chat, and I'm just going to go down the chat room. You guys can ask questions in there, too, by the way, is what do you think about Zen meditation? This is something we've talked about quite a bit.
What kind of meditation?
Zen.
Right. Yeah, Japanese. Japanese forms is Alan Watts. And Alan Watts was one of my teachers. So I find his ways of expressing what Zen is exceptional. My form was more Shaolin, Northern Shaolin. I'm Northern China. I went to Buddhist missionary schools and was raised Shaolin. My mom and dad were Indochina theater during World War II, and I grew up in the Philippines going to Buddhist missionary schools. But I Zen is more like Alan Watts. It's softer, if that made sense. It's softer.
Well, we were talking about this on the show the other night, that all of the astral projection experiences I've had are conscious, I guess, altered states of conscious experience I've had, or lucid dreams, was when I was focused and in the moment. And when I say in the moment, it's very hard to explain. Even some of the hemisync tapes get you there. It just takes a while. Now you're just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but your body's not doing anything, but you're totally in the moment. And that's when the magic happens, you know? I don't know if that's relates to Zen at all, though. I really don't.
Well, Zen is the place where you have to leap from one place to the next. That's what a metaphor is. And so, you're still carrying that thought? You know, it causes you introspection. And that's a type of meditation that is essential in the first steps toward training the mind.
Right on. Joseph K. is asking in the Spreaker chat, to ask Doc to expound on the California fires, maybe in relation to Agenda 21. Now, I don't know much about this, to be honest with you.
Paradise was different than the big fire that they had down there. That big fire was started when somebody took a rifle and was shooting at a stump with two pictures on it, one to determine the sex of their unborn child, whether it was going to be male or female. And that's what started that big fire. Paradise was seen from space as an explosion. When PG&E's so-called smart meters all exploded and burned all the houses down, with the neighborhood itself remained intact. You'll see the houses are completely gutted and the trees around are fine. How's that work? That was a smart meter thing, and why PG&E came out and said we are not financially responsible, we'd bankrupt. And now they're no longer going to allow people to rebuild there for 2.5 years. And the reason I mentioned Agenda 21 is that with Moonbeam and the way that they're trying to give away pieces of America to China to pay our debt. And they're burning them out because then the properties are useless. That whole area where Paradise was set up was already in question for building houses there because of those Santa Ana winds that came whistling down through there. What happened with the fires was a natural extension of a bad location going bad. And now I live up in Grants Pass, which is north about, 250 miles. And we had people coming into our town trying to open up post box because they're gone. They're starting to let people in there right now, but that was because they had to remove some of the evidence to show that it was smart meters that do that. What you're going to find regarding smart meters is that shortly they're going to be outlawed. Already Cutati and other smaller towns in California have outlawed them. They aren't safe. They are toxic. People are getting it. They're going to keep the 5G because, charging on the fly and crap like that. But realize that technology going from 2G to 3G, 4G, and then 5G, 5G is toxic. It's microwave band. And right now, it has dosimetry or LD50 ratios. That's all I'm going to say there. As far as China owns most of the forests here in Oregon, and because of our national debt, we're in a rock and a hard place right now.
All right. Let's see. Let me check the text here. Okay. This text is kind of hard to read. Joe has brought up that there are actually, he thinks that no, you're wrong about this. I've said that there are no black magicians in a tower somewhere with runes tattooed all over them controlling the earth.
Mordred, yeah.
However,
black, white, living color. Magicians. Black and white deal with Christianity, and it's a minor religion in the world. It's not a major one. Buddhism is a major one. Hinduism is a major one. Now, I have to say that black and white, that's for the movies.
Okay.
It's more like Isaac Bonwitz and Living Color.
What I was referencing there, though, was that there's this narrative going on that there's a cabal or black magicians controlling Hollywood and all this other stuff.
Okay. What he's referring to, the pedophile group, those guys. It turns out there are some new drugs in town. Really? Actually, these new drugs have been around a long time. It's called adrenocortisone. And when you get it from a baby, it hits better than crack cocaine, gives you the power of 10 people, and you're drinking the blood, and is an old, creepy thing for creating super soldiers that are addicted and easily controlled. And the pedophilia part, the whole thing is creepy. It's going to crash and burn shortly, but it's about another kind of drug. adrenocortisone. It's adrenaline from babies.
Adrenochrome?
Yeah, check it out.
Hell.
Yeah, it's a creepy cult, and it's been around a long time, and guess what? It's a vampire that turns into a zombie, because when you get it, now want more.
Super addictive.
One of the worst ones. It's worse than crack cocaine. Oh, yeah, from an addiction point of view. Now, if you know yourself, now it's different. But I wouldn't. That's how I'll do it, like Crocodile Dundee. Oh, you can live on it, but I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah, it tastes like shit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I wouldn't do that. Drugs are toxins. What they do, theoretically, is jumpstart your brain. But if you don't do them, setting Timothy Leary, there's no way to assimilate the experience, in which case it's wasted. Now, Leary, in his Varieties of Psychedelic Experience, says the Buddhists had 4 reasons for getting high, and only one of them was for recreation and escape. What are you doing?
Right.
That's it. That's the difference. And when you mess with cocaine, like crack cocaine or methamphetamine, and you can, there's different kinds of meth out there now, too. That are making with anhydrous ammonia rather than phenyl-2-propanols and methylamine. The formulas are changing. The designer drugs are cocktails. When you take LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide, that's a toxin. And what happens is your body freaks out, produces its own lookalike chemistry, which is lysergic acid amide. And the lysergic acid diethylamide is broken down into the salts and into the urine within 20 minutes of ingestion. And the next 20 hours of psychedelic experience is from your own brain chemistry. And there is a movement now in medicine to heal the spiritual that will proliferate down into the physical. And why psychedelic mushrooms are going to probably be next, like marijuana. I don't know how it's all going to play. I can tell you that when you find dimethyltryptamine in the most commonest of plants, that's a neurotransmitter. That's the one associated with the third eye and Kundalini. And
it's in everything.
Well, it's just one of them. That's Rick Strassman's drug. We were doing it at the time we were studying it. It was called telepathine. And we had BZ and ketamine studies in anesthesiology when I was doing my work. And I can tell you that these are gates that open up channels in the brain that allow you to do things you can't do in conscious waking state. The thing is, when you take a drug, it's a toxin, and what you're actually doing is jump-starting your own brain's production of these things. What I'm doing now is learning how to produce them naturally and in controlled sequence so that I can change the movie using purpose. And if I can do that, that will be the next stage in the evolution of man. And that will come in as physics, as an advanced form of physics, which is called magic. And that's where the physics is going. That's where medicine is going with psychedelic mushrooms for healing yourself spiritually, and then that proliferates down into the physical. Now, here's a good way to look at things. If you want to know if a doctor is a good doctor, how healthy is your doctor? If he can't heal himself, how the hell is he going to heal you?
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, go to a fat doctor. That makes sense. Not. Well, it's a metaphor.
You're right, though. Yeah.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. And you always, if you approach it from a magical point of view, look at things like that. It's a metaphor. Is this person someone that's going to be able to help me?
Yeah, I got you. At least on a health level, not. I get that, right? Yeah, right. So I actually had an overweight psychiatrist once, and he wanted to prescribe me everything. I finally got away from him,
Yeah.
Hey, just take this pill, take that. No, thanks, man, I'm good.
How about fasting? That's a pretty good way to do it. In fact, by the third day, you're working on toxins, and that's what causes delusions, as you're working on the calcified crap that's in your gut that needs to come out. It isn't until about the fifth day that a fast starts to work. And everybody should learn how to fast just whenever they choose to.
It's good for you to do that. Right.
Well, it's discipline, and that's what we're talking about, training the mind and the body for purpose.
Let's see, last one, and then we'll have to. I want to talk about your books here. The ibogaine treatments that people are doing. Is that kind of showing us how powerful the subconscious is? And the reason why I ask this is because addiction, especially opioid addiction, is out of control right now. I've experienced it myself in my 20s. It's the worst thing ever to get over. It's not like a mental addiction. And yet, some people are taking ibogaine or other substances and resetting their brain, and even their body doesn't feel addicted to it anymore.
Well, that's okay. So we talked earlier about the distinction between something being a tool and an addiction.
Right.
And ibogaine addresses non-site selective addictions like spousal abuse and gambling. And the model that I have proposed is similar to the French, having to do with PGO waves in the occipital region of the cerebral cortex. What ibogaine essentially does is it rewrites your auto-exec bat files when you boot up every morning. These are the little games that you do when you go to the bathroom and you flush the toilet, and before the toilet clears, you've got to get your toothpaste on your toothbrush. Those little games that you play are what determine your addictions. And what the PGO waves is rewrites those addictions. All you have to do is change those little rituals that you do in the morning and watch how your addictions change.
Gotcha. Well, I want to say that I started taking your metaphysics classes that you have on your website. And I am so impressed because I've YouTube binged, and a lot of us have, on your interviews and radio interviews, and there's just so much information that you're trying to pack in these interviews. But in all of your papers and books, it's all detailed from the start to the finish. And so I started with, book Metaphysics 1, right? It goes 1 through 9, I believe. And not only did I get...
Well, no, I have actually, there were 15 courses that I taught.
Okay. But I've only got one 12, is what I got.
Yeah, right. You got the first one. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't think it was going to be this extensive, but I'm just saying it is packed full of goodies and references and books to come with it too, as well.
Yeah. So that you can do your own research. Yeah.
And so go ahead. Sorry.
I would recommend that you start reading some of those books like Psychic Self-Defense. Come up with your own little ritual for protecting yourself. Once you have that, you've got a clear gallery now of direction that you can go, feeling semi-safe from Alabama ticks and cooties. They'll still be there, and that's why I taught other courses. And of course, I'm always here as the good Reverend Doctor. Oh yeah, take 6 little virgins, and I'll talk to me in the morning. That's basically, everybody knows what they're supposed to do. It's actually learning how to listen to yourself. And everybody's different, the way they do it, like art.
Well, I have to respect it because I've said it before that a good magician or a good teacher, the first thing they're going to teach you is how to protect your psyche through this whole process.
Well, that's where you start. Yeah, just a foundation, just simple. And Dion Fortune, she was real clear. She was part of Golden Dawn. She was a novelist mostly, but she wrote some pretty good books on the Kabbalah, just like William and Westcott, some others that were part of Golden Dawn. They had an incredible amount of talent there. And magical orders back then were for spiritual development.
Right.
And it's all convoluted. And the so-called deep state and the concept, to know what a Republican and a Democrat are today is different. It's more like a globalist and a nationalist. And a nationalist wants to be proud of our country and, America first, that kind of thing. Whereas globalists, with agendas, like with sex, now there are 36 different genders. What? I understand androgyny. I understand gayness. James Hillman wrote a book called Anima, which talks about the female inside the male and the male inside the female. And the distinction, I remember there was this this is a metaphor, it's a joke. There was a group of aliens that couldn't understand how man could survive as a species when the difference in brain chemistry, being psychotic and normal, could be measured in micrograms. It's crazy to realize.
Sounds crazy.
Well, yeah. Today, and when Aleister Crowley was doing drugs like cocaine, they had no idea. He had a little sign over his bed, when Alice was in over Aleister. I mean, they had no idea what they were exploring. Magic has a wide range of possibilities, and the more conscious direction of that is what takes you from being a pagan into a sorcerer and then graduating and becoming more like a magician. And physicist, it's a very awkward balance and natural, just like, Jack Parsons started JPL. I'm the physicist that didn't blow himself up.
Yeah, thank God for that, right? I can't ask. Somebody wants to know if you actually contributed to the Anarchist Cookbook. I don't think that's not a very good question. I would say no comment.
Yes, it is. Actually, yes, I did. Originally, that book, before there was a single author that Simon & Schuster is doing now, there was 4 of us that wrote that. The original, there was 4 of us. And then it broke down to that one guy that was not an anarchist at all and didn't want to have anything to do with it. And now you'll notice, like Amazon, they just published that book without anybody.
Yeah, see, and I was told that you could get in trouble or even arrested for having that book. So, whatever.
I had this one little formula that I had. You take a light bulb and you drill a hole in the bottom of it and let the air back into the light bulb from the bottom. And then you put a small amount of gasoline inside that and you screw it back up in there. And let me tell you, that will liven up a party that's going dull.
I bet it will. I bet it will. So
you have no idea. You know what your best weapon is? It's not a pistol. You can go to the dollar store and you can buy a gallon of ammonia, and with another $1 you can buy 4 little squirt bottles. Now let me tell you what ammonia squirted into a rabid dog will do.
What?
And it's not illegal like pepper spray or bear spray. That's what the Anarchist Cookbook was about. Very practical, basic, can't get there from here, but here's how I do it. My dad taught me that one. I was coming down a hill, and this dog would chase me at school every day. And one day I came home bloody because he knocked me off my bike. And my dad gave me a water pistol and ammonia, and I got that dog good the next day, and that dog never chased a bike again.
Yeah, I bet he didn't. He didn't want to experience that anymore. Well, see.
Well, yeah.
There you go, folks. If you want to learn about metaphysics, consciousness exploration, herbalists, herbal stuff, how to live off the grid, everything. I mean, I can't even name all the stuff that you write about. It's all there. RichardAllenMiller.com. That's where you go. And grab the books there. The bookstore's full of cool stuff. And thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate
my pleasure,
it.
Joseph. I appreciate you remembering me.
Oh, how can I forget you? You know, you're one of my heroes, man.
Have me on more frequently. Feel free. I enjoy your questions.
Yeah, we'll do that. Absolutely. And guys, make sure you go check it out. RichardAllenMiller.com. Follow him on social media. Brain Driver Starter Kit. The Metaphysics books. They're all there. ESP induction, self-hypnosis, power tools, alternative agriculture. The potential of herbs as a cash crop. The magical and ritual use of herbs. And so much more is out there. We'll be right back. Right after this break. Out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Duval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts.
Alright everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on the Fringe FM.
Follow the Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at the Fringe FM. Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Freighter Xavier's Protection and Defense course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
How would you like to hang out with that guy, right? Dr. Richard Allen Miller. I can imagine doing anything with him. A skywatch, a psychedelic trip, whatever. That's the kind of guy you just want to hang around and learn from. And I do recommend getting those books. Start at the beginning, because I don't think a lot of you know about him. I believe Dr. Richard Allen Miller, I think he's got Asperger's a little bit, and so he's like a genius. I told him during the break, I said, I don't know how your brain holds all this information, and he said, I don't either, you know, and he's such a great guy. I wish more people were like him. But there's a ton of stuff on YouTube he talks about too. This was his third time he had been on the show, and I didn't even know he had that until he told me one day, and it all started making sense. Like, what, you know, because he could talk about astral travel, astrology, ritual, 9 or 10 different subjects in one sentence. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss what he's trying to tell you. So you really got to pay attention, because he gives you so much knowledge very, very fast. And it's really cool. But I got a surprise for you guys. I got a voice on here with me that you hadn't heard in quite a bit. My partner in crime on the Fringe FM, the one and only Madman Markham, Eric Markham. What's up, brother? It's good to have you on the show again.
Good evening, Joe. How's it going?
Man, it's going. A lot of people think that you disappeared off the face of the earth, and I got to tell them, I say, no, you don't understand. This guy's a working man. He's busy. He's got stuff going on. He's always messing around in his lab. But the good news is, now that we got Eric on, is that the station has become, thanks to Eric, an official LLC. So now hopefully we're going to get to go out and get that Fringe Mobile. That's the next thing we're trying to work on. And so if you donate and say, this is for the Fringe Mobile, we'll put that to use. We're going to get a big black van and put satellites and radios on it and travel the country. Wouldn't that be epic? We could do that, Eric.
Oh, that would be. I'd love it.
We could just do radio shows from wherever the hell we go. It's possible. Done it before.
Yeah.
But
working on it.
Yeah, we are working on it. And it's I don't know, man. I really want people to know how big of a role that you played in all this, because behind the scenes, Eric has done so much for this station. We've reached a different level as far as stature, as far as business goals and all of that stuff because of Eric. And he's not real loud about it. You know, he's not out bragging about it, talking about it to everybody. But I want to brag about it a little bit. And, you know, we still get by on your support, too. We have to. It's not like Eric's a bank or anything, but he did help with some of the equipment. And so my studio is actually half contributed by Eric and half contributed by the audience. And I'm just grateful to you, brother. So you have no idea. And I want everybody to know that, too.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. It's kind of humbling to hear it put that way.
Well, you know, you got the vision, right?
I was working a lot of overtime, and I thought, well, what better way to, you know, I can either squander it or I can put it towards something, you know, decent. And I thought investing in the Fringe FM was the best thing to do with all that overtime I was making.
So he was thinking, yeah. So when we got together, we're wanting to build. We're working on 2 studios right now. One here, and one where he's at. And this one's pretty much done. I mean, the stuff that we need here is minute now. And then Eric went out and bought this gigantic mixer. I can't wait to hear this thing, man. And so we're setting up shop across the United States. We're going to have studios in different parts, and we're going to keep producing. Like some people, I produce their shows or podcasts, and then Eric's going to try to do the same thing over there. That's the plan. And then eventually we'll get the Batmobile and start traveling around. At least that's what we've been talking about. So, and we got a store coming too. I just want you guys to know that, with all your Fringe FM swag, hats and shirts and everything under the sun. Aren't you excited, Markham? Aren't you excited about all this?
Yeah, I am. It was when I got that letter that, basically states the Fringe Digital Media LLC is a real entity. It was, it wasn't a pipe dream anymore. I'm holding, official recognition that, hey, we're a business now, not just 2 guys talking radio and having a good time. It was,
we got these little
fun moment,
and we got these little, I don't know what to call them, rats, haters, paparazzi that are like, oh, Markham's disappeared, and oh, Joseph was gone for a week. Look, the Fringe FM's going down in flames.
Yeah.
And they're stating their wishes as fact, but in reality, they're just projecting what they want to happen, and it's not the reality at all. The funny thing, perception, when you really start seeing it for what it is. But you also find out who your good friends are that way too. But I had no idea. When Doc Ram was on here, I thought that him writing for the Anarchist Cookbook, I thought that was a rumor, but in fact, that was real. He was one of the writers for that book. That's a trip.
I remember back when there was the real Anarchist Cookbook, and I have actually seen a copy once, and then, of course, the codified published one that you can still buy on Amazon. I was always told that the CIA or some government agency rigged the formulas to where if you tried to use them, they'd blow up in your face and all that. I've never actually...
Lots of rumors.
I've never gotten the new one. I've never gotten the actual, the one he quoted as being basically the fake one. I've never seen it, but I actually, a couple guys I knew on the Nimitz had an original, honest to God, Anarchist Cookbook, and it looked like somebody had run it off a mimeograph machine. It wasn't like a bound published book.
Do you have that book? Just out of curiosity?
No, I wish I did. I mean, that was probably close to 30 years ago, and these guys were kind of out there. They'd probably be, if they're the kind of guys that if their CEOs had found out what kind of crap they did in their spare time, they'd be in, Portsmouth Naval Prison right now. But they were, they were odd. They were fun to hang out with, but in the same light, I didn't want to ever get caught when they were doing any of their weird stuff. So yeah, but it was more like what you would expect an underground publication to look like. It wasn't bound. It like I said, it literally, you got to be kind of old to remember. Before Xerox, there was something called mimeograph. It made like blue pages, and each page was printed from the carbon copy. Everything had to be typed up on a special kind of carbon copy paper, and then that was run off. And schools used to do like worksheets with it all the time. And this before Xerox caught on, and that's what this book looked like it had done. It had come off somebody had an old mimeograph machine in their basement, had typed the thing up and made copies of it and passed it around.
Well, with all the rumors going around, I was afraid. I just searched it for the first time, in a long time because I was so afraid that it was so illegal or whatever not to even search it. But now I'm finding that those are just rumors. Maybe. We'll find out when I wake up tomorrow and I got a virus in my computer. Who knows?
Well, I think the original one there for a while, the original Anarchist Cookbook, was, of course, this is pre-internet days. This is we're talking pre-Xerox, pre-internet. You had to literally copy this thing down by hand and make a copy to send it off.
Really?
And then, you either handed it to somebody or you took a chance on mailing it. And I think there were, this all was going on when I was in probably third or fourth grade. So, my political awareness of the world was, basically, well, the damn Watergate trials taking the place of my cartoons. Now I'm PO'd, that kind of thing. But apparently what was going on in the background was this thing was being reproduced individually and distributed. And there was concern. I found this all, this is all after the fact. Stuff I researched long after, the published version of the book came out. But the two guys on the Nimitz that had the original, a copy of the original, were saying, don't buy the one that's printed because
it scared
published me. Because that's the one that if you follow the formula, it was infiltrated and the formulas were messed up and stuff like that.
Oh my God. That's freaky, man. That is.
That was,
so they actually
back in the
made
80s.
a book that had the wrong stuff in there. Basically, it would probably blow up in your face. That's kind of scary. But
that was a rumor. And that was passed down to me by two guys that basically were doing this stuff on the side while in the military. And I took them at their word. I don't know. They might have been more full of crap than a dairy pasture, but
man, I had a buddy
back
Eric,
then, I was about 19 years old,
right.
And fresh off the farm, I kind of believed them, so I never messed with it.
I had a buddy back then that told me, and I was about the same age. I was probably in my 20s when they were talking about this. Man, hadn't you ever made a toe popper before? I'm like, a toe popper? Why the hell do I want to pop anybody's toes? And he told me how to use a skull can and a primer and gunpowder and stuff to make it to where, you could hide it in the ground, and if they stepped on the skull can, it would snap the can together, right? Which would complete the circuit. And that's why it's called a toe popper. So this guy's telling me how to make something, how to blow somebody's foot off, and then was telling me to go get the Anarchist Cookbook. And I was like, I don't think I want that book. That's fine information, though.
Well, yeah, there's weird stuff. I figured some of that stuff out on my own just because I was the kind of kid that if you gave me a room full of black powder and pool chemicals, I was going to start. It's amazing I survived my youth. It's like some of the things I used to concoct,
Or other people that, we used to make, it's amazing that I didn't hurt other people. We used to make those aluminum foil bombs. You know what that is. Get some Drano and aluminum foil and put it in the, like a 2-liter bottle or something, and just watch it expand till it blows up. Super fun, right? You wouldn't think that would hurt anybody, but it can.
Oh.
It can definitely hurt somebody. And we lived in a redneck town. So I'm telling you, man, this place in Sheridan, when I grew up, it was so small and full of rednecks. What these guys did for fun every night was hang out at what they called center lanes, which was pretty much nothing but a parking lot beside a courthouse. And that's it. They would just all get out of their vehicles and hang out and gossip around this courthouse. And everybody knew everybody, and they all hated me because Joe Roop was the big pothead hippie guy. And so what I did was I would make these aluminum foil bombs and drive by and just throw them out the door and slide. They'd slide to wherever they slid. I don't even know if I should be talking about this. And And when they exploded, those some bitches, they'd run everywhere. They thought they were under attack because you know how loud it is. And,
right.
I got handcuffed for that once, but they never took me to jail. That's my extent of bomb making, I would say.
Well, a lot of people don't remember when Coca-Cola first came out in a bottle. It wasn't the bottle like you have now. The first Coke bottles, if you shook it up real hard, lobbed it up in the air, when it hit the ground, it exploded. I don't know how many dollars worth of Coca-Colas. I mean, we used to do it, buy a 2-liter, or, we'd buy a bottle of Coke just to do that with. You didn't worry about drinking it. It was fun to watch the bottles explode.
Can we get in trouble for talking about this stuff?
Probably. No, I imagine there's statute of limitations. Hey, if they want to arrest me for something I did when I was in 4th grade, more power to them. I don't have to work anymore then. I get three square. I'm too old. I'm too old and crippled up to be sexy in prison. So it's like, hey, I just be a lump getting my 3 meals a day and sleeping as much as I could.
I was an angry child, Markham, and they put me in this, I'm sure you're aware of it, GATE class, gifted and talented class or whatever, and they should have never come up with this program, by the way. But there was always this special class that the kids had the same people they were with in elementary school, each year, and it was called the GATE program. And I ended up in that program in the 3rd grade, surrounded by a bunch of people I couldn't stand, and I was always trying to fit in. Not to mention I was angry as hell as a kid. Anyways, long story short there, these kids, they took toilet paper rolls. The rolls from a toilet paper, the cardboard piece. And Theron, and if you guys are listening, I'm telling the truth. But this kid named Theron and another kid, they started coloring the cardboard around it, and they put a top on it with a piece of paper and made a pretty little thing and colored it red and told me that was a bomb, right? And I said, that's not a bomb. And they said, what are you talking about? It looks like a bomb. I said, but that's not a bomb. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll bring one tomorrow. And this is what I did. If any of you guys are familiar with muzzle loaders, right? You got those quick loads that are full of gunpowder and all that stuff. Well, I thought I was going to impress these kids. This is how smart I was when I was a kid. Thought I was going to impress them. And I took one of those quick loads, packed it in this stupid, I think I took 2 of them, actually, if I remember correctly, that my dad had. And he had them hid way up on the top shelf in the kitchen, but I snooped around enough, I knew where they was. And I poured them into this thing, packed it in there with cotton balls and a little bit of Vaseline so it was real tight, put a bottle rocket fuse in it and taped it up. I took that sumbitch to school the next day. This is how messed up I was when I was a kid. I took that to school the next day and I handed it to Theron, and I said, now, that's a bomb. And I thought I was real cute, right? And he opened the top, and he looked at it and he said, oh, man, dude, this is a real bomb. And he turned red, and I was like, yeah, that's what you guys were talking about. That's what you wanted to do. Y'all think you're a damn Ninja Turtle, but you're not. I'm a real Ninja Turtle. I know how to make bombs. And I thought I was the coolest kid ever. And I said, don't tell anybody. I'll threaten to kick his butt and all this other stuff. Later that day, guess where I was? I was in the office.
I bet.
Yeah, and there was a police officer there. And they were asking me why I did that. And I told them the whole story, the same story I told you. And it scares the hell out of me, right, Moon? Because if I'd have done that, if a child does that now, they're going to go to Rivendell or Juvie or whatever. Back then, I got a paddling, and I can't, for my own father's sake, I won't describe what happened to me when I got home. All right? But I don't blame my father for what he did, because I want you to imagine your child doing something like that. How scared would you be? I mean, would you ground them? Would you put them in the corner in timeout? Would you take their video games away? My dad didn't know what to do, And he did what he thought was best. And I can tell you that I never ever did anything like that again. Well, there was this one time I can talk about later, but that kind of stuff I did as a child, and I wasn't really mentally disturbed. I just didn't fit in and was trying to fit in as a child. It's weird, isn't it? Now you see, like, if a kid did that at school today to try to impress his friends or something, what do you think would happen to him? You got any idea?
Well, let's see. Actually, the kid would probably get a pass. They'd probably throw the parents in prison. That seems to be the new, you don't hold the child responsible for anything. You hold society, parents, whatever. And I mean, my parents, I was very much the same way. I was bored and didn't fit in with any of my peers, so I experimented with pool chemicals.
Oh.
Found all kind of weird stuff you can do with Crystal Vanish, which was a toilet bowl cleaner back when I was a kid. Let's see, it was in the crystal form. Crystal Vanish, pool chlorine pellets, and uric acid, which you needed the muriatic acid for your, to adjust the pH on the pool. I used to have a blast with that stuff. I never held the beaker after the first time, though, because it's an extremely exothermic reaction. Just about, I ended up with, blisters on my fingers from holding the vial too long. But after that, that was, I grew up in the late mid-70s. I was born in 63, so.
You get thumped if you done something like that, though, right? You get thumped. Your parents would thump you.
Oh, yeah. My dad was mad as hell when he found out I was wasting pool. And I don't think it was so much the fact that I was sitting there concocting stuff that was dangerous. It was, just don't use our expensive pool chemicals to do that kind of thing. But, there was other things I did that, I carried a authentic samurai sword to school once.
Hell yeah.
Wrapped up in my beach towel. I was just hoping one of the bullies would screw with me.
Right. Yeah, what's even more messed up after my dad gave me that good old ass whooping, right, was the next day the counselor sat me down, and they have the school counselors, and she said, yes, if there's anything going on at home, you can tell me, right? Like, they want to know why I'm doing this stuff. But what they're really trying to do is come down on my dad. That's what they wanted to do.
Right.
And I remember looking at that lady going, lady, my dad's a good man. Yeah, I got a few bruises on the top of my butt. I know you saw him. But let me tell you something. He did what he knew was best. And he was raised a lot tougher and harder than what I got, And I'm not going to sit here and say and make a abuser out of my dad when I still think he did the right thing. I mean, I know that sounds messed up. I still believe it's psychotic to hit children. I do. But I mean, I was, I think 10 or 11 at the time, and my father had to make sure that I never done anything like that again. I don't blame him.
There's a lot to be said for negative reinforcement. If you know you're going to get your ass handed to you, you're not going to you might not be as likely to do some of the stupid stuff we did as kids. And I think that's what's missing. Kids now, it's like, oh, well, they're going to take my internet away from me. I can survive that. Or I can sneak around that. So
Susan said there was in the Spreaker chat, she said a kid that she went to school with, damn, we got to get out of here, blew his thumb off hacking up some chemicals in a glass Coke bottle. Damn. That's crazy. Yeah, we got to roll out of here. I'm sorry, I just got carried away with that. But thanks, Markham, for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate it. I guess we lost Markham. Anyways,
I had my mute button on, couldn't find it.
It's all good. Hey, this show was produced by the Fringe FM and cannot be re-syndicated without written permission. Music was by Chronox, Bundy, Kevin MacLeod, and Carbon-Based Life Forms. Tomorrow night, our New Moon special with Mary Ducina. That's what we're going to be doing tomorrow night. If you're listening live on the Fringe FM, stick around for the secret teachings, the one and only Ryan Gable. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised. We told you weeknights on the Fringe FM are now even better, and we mean it.
Do it live! Where else can you hear the best shows and the best talent? Kick off your evening with our newest host, Alex Exum, live at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 Eastern. Hang out with me, Joe Roop, on Lighting the Void at 9 Pacific, midnight Eastern. Ryan Gable expands your mind on the secret teachings at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern. We're bringing the heat every single night. Fire it up, the Fringe FM.
Yahoy there. This is Gigi from Shift Happens. And holy shit, you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Hey, don't you dare turn that stick.